Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are doing a first look at Velobuild's latest flagship frame set, which is their VBR 268 Aero frame set. I'm really excited for this project. So in this video, guys, we're going to be discussing just exactly who Velobuild is. We'll be going over the specs, the price, the weight on this frame set, some of my thoughts on the fit and finish, and of course my plans for this build. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so as I mentioned in the introduction of this video, guys, this is Velobuild. This is their latest, the flagship road frame set, which is their VBR 268 Aero frame set. Now, for full disclosure, Velobuild, they did send this frame set out to me to test and to review. But if you are new to my channel, you should know that I've actually reviewed 3 other frame sets from Velobuild. So me working with Velobuild isn't anything new. I've been working with them now for about almost 3 years or so. So first off, just exactly who is Velobuild if you are new to my channel. So Velobuild, they are a Chinese brand, but most importantly, they are a direct-to-consumer brand. So the idea being is you would go to their website, you would select your frame set of choice, you would select even your paint color for an additional fee, and then about 3 to 4 weeks, your frame set will arrive at your door ready to be built. Now going back to some of the other frames that I have reviewed from Velobuild, now at this point I've reviewed 3 of them. I've reviewed their VB 177, their lightweight climbing frame set, which I really like. In fact, that frame and bike has gone to a new happy home here in Chicago. He's very excited for that frame set. The second frame that I've reviewed is their Aero frame set, which is their 168 frame set. Unfortunately for how I ride here in Chicago, that frame set, my particular copy, it wasn't the stiffest frame set I've ever tested. So I'm hoping that this 268 will fix the problems that I had with my 168 as far as stiffness. And then the third frame set that I reviewed from Velobuild was their gravel / cyclocross frame set, their CX002 frame set. And I really like that frame set. In fact, the fit and finish on that one was top notch, especially for the price point. It just felt really robust and it just felt like a tank. So as a whole, given the price point for what Velobuild offers, they offer a really good value given the price point, and they allow the consumers to basically build up their own custom bike with not a lot of risks. Another thing I like about Velobuild is I like their customer service. Again, all things considered given the price point, but they do seem to make an effort to listen to their customers. If there are any issues that do arise, they seem to be pretty good about trying to rectify the issue. I've had other brands, according to customer reports, where they've spent more on their frames and have had to go through a lot more hassle to get things warranted or missing parts shipped out, things like that. But Velobuild seems to do a really good job in this regard. And one of the other things that I do really like about Velobuild, and even just budget frame sets in general, is the risk is exceptionally low given the price point. Now, in one of my more recent videos, I had to do a warranty claim, and I had a warranty issue with my Giant Propel frame set where I had a cracked steer tube, and basically I had to go through all these hoops and escalate directly to Giant's customer service to get a replacement for it. Imagine spending $4,000 on the frame set and having to go through all this extra trouble just to get something warranted. And so for these budget frames, especially with Velobuild, because the price point, the entry to this is very low, you don't have to worry about your $4,000 frame set going wrong and having to go all across the world just to try to get replacement parts. Next up, let's talk about the specs of this flagship frame set from Velobuild. So as I mentioned just previously, the 168, which is their Aero frame set, this was their previous flagship frame set. The performance and the stiffness on it, it was just okay. It wasn't that great. And so the idea with this frame set from Velobuild is they're sort of marrying the idea between some of the lightweight properties of their 177 climbing frame set mixed with the Aero properties, whatever Aero properties there actually are, from their 168, and that's how you get the 268. And so yeah, I'm really hoping that Velobuild has sort of fixed some of these issues that I had with the 168, and given by today's current trends in bikes where everything is sort of this one bike to rule them all, it's no surprise that even with this 268, that resembles the look of a Tarmac SO7 or even a Tarmac SL8. And it makes sense too, because if you look at the geometry chart for this frame, the geometry to the SO7 and even my Specialized LA Sprint, it's basically identical. Now, according to Velobuild's website, they say that this frame set, the 268, is using a blend of both T800 and T1000 carbon fiber. They're using EPS latex in their frame molds. These are pretty common for these Chinese brands. But one thing I do want to note is when a company advertises that they're using a blend of, say, in this case, T800 and T1000, they don't necessarily have to disclose exactly how much of each of these carbon fiber styles they're using. For all we know, Velobuild could be using 95% T800 and only 5% T1000 carbon fiber, and that allows them to basically say they're using both. So just keep that in mind. We don't know how much of the ratio they're using, but they are allowed to say that if they are in fact using both of these carbon fibers. Now, the size I went with is a size 56, and like I said, this is the same geometry as my LA Sprint. So my idea as far as bike fit goes is to basically set this bike up identical to my LA Sprint. That way I can get a very fair assessment to see how this road bike or frame operates out in the real world. Tire clearance for this is up to 32C tires, and I really appreciate this is because more recently I have taken my Specialized LA Sprint on some rough roads not far here in Chicagoland, and I really appreciate having the ability to run wider tires. For most of the roads around here, unless you are going full on gravel, you really don't need anything more than 30C tires if I'm being honest, but it is nice to be able to run up to 32, probably even 34 if you're using them on very dry roads. So you should have no issues in that regard fitting wired tires on this frame set. Now let's talk about the color for a quick moment. So as you can see, the color on this frame set is what Velobuild calls their silver chameleon. It's very subtle in the shade, but as soon as the sun hits it, bro, like I'm gonna be blinding all these dudes out on the road in the middle of the summer, especially around noon. It's basically like this sparkled 3D flake effect, but it's really gonna pop. If you ever see me out on the roads on this frame set around Chicago, you will 100% know it's me. Well, obviously because I'm black, but because you're gonna see this frame and you're gonna see it shining and glistening, sort of like my beard be glistening in the sun, but just know that it's a very striking color. So if you like that sort of look, by all means, go with this color. And the last thing I'm gonna talk about with the specs is Velobuild has opted to use the Mavic speed release system with the through axles. I don't have any experience with these through axles, so I can't really comment on them, but I will let you know to see how functional they are and if they are a pain in the butt or not. Next up, let's talk about the price. So the price of this at the time of this video is $499 USD plus shipping, and then plus any additional fees as far as custom paint goes. And with that price, that includes the headset bearings. I believe it also includes the through axles, and it also includes a set of integrated handlebars. For myself, I chose to not include a set of handlebars is because my bike fit is pretty funky. It's a bit of an anomaly. I have really long arms and a pretty aggressive bike setup. So most integrated standard cockpits just don't really work for me. And so I already have my own set of handlebars and stems that I'm gonna work with to make sure I can get my bike fit really dialed in. So for $500 plus shipping and paint, say it's gonna cost you all in maybe like 650 bucks. That's a really good deal to have a custom paint. You're gonna have a low entry into being able to build up your own custom bike. And like I said before, there's a lot less risk dealing with Velobuild than say if you're trying to spend, you know, $2,000 or $3,000 for a frame set. All right, guys, let's go ahead and weigh out this Velobuild VB268 frame set. But before we do, huge shout out to the Ohio Players with their famous LP Pleasure. Guys, if you are unfamiliar with Ohio Players, all you have to do is listen to 2 records on this LP. Number 1, listen to Pride and Vanity. And if you don't listen to that, then especially listen to the song called The Funky Worm. As soon as you listen to The Funky Worm, you will immediately recognize this sample, especially if you are a hip hop head such as myself. So anyway, let's go ahead and weigh out this frame set. All right. Size 56. I did remove the front derailleur hanger because I'm going 1x for this build. We still have the rear derailleur and some of the other plastic grommets for the hydraulic cables. All right, so for size 56, we have 1,080 grams. All right. Next up, let's weigh out the seat post. And the seat post does include the clamps for the saddle. We got 228 grams. And finally, for the uncut fork, we have 406 grams. You know what? Let's go ahead and weigh out these Maverick through axles. Not a huge fan of these, but this is what Velobuild has opted to go with. Yikes, let's see. 70 grams for the set of Maverick through axles. So let's continue. Now moving on to the fit and finish of this frame set. Now, like I said, Velobuild, they did send this frame set out to me to review. So who knows if I received the Hambini special. But with that being said, I don't have anything to report negatively on the frame set as far as the fit and finish goes. The areas around where the calipers would be mounted, those areas seem to have been faced. Even around the bottom bracket cups, which it uses BB86 press fit, nothing looks out of place. Everything looks very, very agreeable. I don't have anything to comment on. The fit and finish, in my opinion, it looked just as good as my Yolio R12 aero frame set, and that cost like $1,500. So good job to Velobuild, and all I can say is I just hope that the fit and finish that I received on this frame set is the same with how you are sending them out to paying customers. And last but not least, let's talk about the plans for this build. So I'm going to be going SRAM Force ETAP 1x. The thing is, especially where I live, and I've said this plenty of times in the last 3 years, Chicago is really, really flat. And while the majority of my bikes do have 2xs on them, the reality is I don't ever have to use the small chainring. There's really only 2 times I ever have to use the small chainring. One, if I'm on Zwift indoors, which is, negligible. And 2 is if I'm about 2.5, 3 hours west of Chicago, where we have a lot of rolling hills. Some of these hills can be upwards of 15%. Some of the climbs are anywhere between like 3 to 4 minutes long. But outside of that, you just don't need a 2x system here in Chicago. And especially on some of these fast group rides or even practice crits, whatever the case may be, you most certainly are not using a 2x system. So I don't need it. It saves some weight. And given that this frame set, while it's not the lightest frame set I've ever tested, it's pretty close. I think just being able to save a little bit of weight and focusing more on the lightweight and focusing on a little bit of it being more aero as well, given the properties of this frame set, that 1x is going to be the way to go. So that's basically it, guys. This is just a first look on this frame set. I'm excited to get this thing going. Now that is April here, I do have a couple of weeks to play around to figure out, when I'm going to be able to get this build in. Maybe I'll even have a professional mechanic build this bike, because apparently if you build bikes yourself, it voids the warranty. Ooh, that's a whole nother story anyway. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. Big thank you to Velobuild for sending out this frame set for me to test and review. And as always, guys, questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down below. And I'm going to check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.